Breaking news, this is your World War III alert. The Polish Ministry of Affairs is advising their Polish national population in Russia to leave the country immediately due to concerns about an imminent escalation. We are going to be going over all the data today in the usual fashion that we do to try to enumerate the many ways in which we are inexorably hurtling towards our demise, hour by hour. It never ceases to amaze me, and that's what it is. It's amazement. Some people think I'm freaking out, I'm panicked, I'm in a state of constant anxiety about what's coming. Man, I am the most prepared guy. I'm as prepared as I'm going to be. What amazes me, and what's so even exhilarating in a way, is an awareness of this divergence between people who are completely imperceptive to what's going on and the reality of the situation. Let me go over something with you guys before we get into all the details of what we got to talk about today, including the fact that they're now openly talking about putting F-35s inside mountain bunker complexes to make them nuclear proof. I want you to remember 7 things. DEFCON is classified. You are literally and legally not going to be told when nuclear war is going to start. I want you to hold all these 7 things in your thought at the same time. DEFCON is classified. 2, the priority in any crisis of that scale is continuity of government, not ensuring you as an individual is going to survive. 3, right now, as we speak, as they're loading F-35s, nuclear capable ones at that, into mountain bunker complexes that are nuclear proof, NATO jets, pilots, weapons, and ISR, through an elaborate masquerade, are about to start striking targets within Russia. This is a clearly demarcated red line. As a result, a panoply of experts agree that we're closer to a nuclear incident than ever before in history. I mean, there is no debate about this. We are closer to nuclear Armageddon than ever before in history. The only question is how it's going to start, and whoever starts it, how is that leader going to justify it to his people? That's the awkward part. Yeah, we kind of had to detonate a nuke in Ukraine. The government and its oligarchical affiliates tend to lie. That's number 5. If you don't agree with that, then hey, I got some bridges to sell you. The highly centralized Western media isn't talking about any of this. None of this. You're never going to see this on the front page. This should be front page news every single moment of every single day until we get some kind of rapprochement between all parties involved. Because this, we're really talking about the end of our species as we know it. The end of the world as we know it. That might sound sensational or alarmist. If it does, you don't understand non-conventional weapons. That's just nuclear. We're not talking about cyber or bio-warfare. Those things will be bundled in with that, you can bet. Intelligent, high net worth individuals are building bunkers, agrarian bunkers, which are basically turnkey homestead retreats, off-grid retreats, and stockpiling food and precious metals. If you know those 7 things, all of what I just said are facts. I would challenge anybody who claims that I am spouting conspiracy. I often hear that, and maybe it's because of the thumbnails or something, but when you actually sit through one of my videos, if you can identify any place where I'm wrong and provide a valid counterpoint, that is something I will incorporate into my repertoire of information that I hold in my brain, okay? I will take that sort of constructive feedback. The fact is, people can't. All they can sit there is say, oh, another conspiracy guy thinking the world's going to end. Really? Is that an argument? Are you addressing any of the nuances of the conversation here whatsoever? No. This is a defense mechanism. Right now, closer to the brink of nuclear Armageddon than ever before. The government's not legally obligated to tell you that it's going to happen. That's all you need to know. And they're not talking about it. Go figure. A peace proposal, a ceasefire proposal, was rejected by this guy right here and all of his comrades. It's funny, they would say that in the other direction, wouldn't they? But they're all comrades at the top, no matter what side they claim to represent, east or west. So escalation is imminent. The reason why the Russians decided to make that final, extend that final olive branch, it was all because just 24 hours prior to that, a very non-lucid Joe Biden, probably perhaps at his least lucid that we've ever seen him before, totally running on a pharmaceutical autopilot, it appeared, signed a 10-year military agreement with Ukraine. Now, all of these countries are signing bilateral agreements because it's a way out of invoking Article 5 directly, thus bringing us to the brink of total nuclear war. And as we're going to talk about today, the United States, in fact, are planning for what I've been saying all along, which is a low-yield nuclear war, a normalization of tactical nuclear weapons. So, the U.S. signs this agreement. 24 hours later, Vladimir Putin comes out and he says, okay, so here's our final offer. And this is what members of the State Duma have echoed, that this is the final ceasefire proposal and that the next one is likely going to entail and even more concessions from Ukraine. Now, Vladimir Putin knew that this would not be accepted. I have the details of the actual agreement here, or the proposal. Basically, Ukraine troops must completely withdraw from all of the 4 annexed territories, which is never going to happen. Ukraine must refuse to join NATO. He very specifically says that they must remain neutral, non-aligned, and nuclear-free. Now, the question is, does Ukraine already have nuclear weapons and we just don't know it, and the Russians know it? There's a possibility of that. All Western sanctions against the Russian Federation must be lifted. Never going to happen. We know it's never going to happen. Guys, escalation is imminent. Poland is calling its people home, whoever is left there. I don't even know how many, maybe is it like 5 guys? I don't know. The status of Crimea and Sevastopol, DPR and LPR, Zaporozhye and Kherson regions as regions of the Russian Federation should be courted in international treaties. If Kiev and the West refuse the new peace proposal, then the conditions will be different. That's not a very stern warning. That's a very mutable warning. In fact, it's very much like the very elastic red lines that the Russians, the ultimatums they've issued in the past. I don't think the West is going to take it seriously. They're going to take it as a sign of weakness. They're going to continue to push. They got a new drone in there in the Black Sea that we're going to talk about that is collecting data. In fact, some people say it's already been shot down, which I would not be surprised. I know I'm going at a mile a minute here, like I'm on speed or meth or something like that. I assure you, we are natty as natty. I'm continuously amazed, guys, because you are and I'm not saying this in a self-aggrandizing, elitist sort of way. If you watch this channel regularly, you are so much more informed than most of the people you pass by in the street. And it's usually just because they're busy just trying to get by. It's not a slight against them. Not everybody has time to watch an hour-long video every single day. I get it. But man, this situation is so deadly serious. All of the warning signs are there. You shouldn't need any validation more than what I've stated in the first 10 minutes of this video with respect to doing what you are doing. Okay, there's a reason why I'm wearing body armor. I'm repping the brand because we're now officially distributors of body armor. Now, of course, we can only send it to, there's 4 provinces and I think a couple states that we're limited to sending it to. You have to provide certain types of identification. I don't even like getting people's ID. I don't work for Big Brother. I know it's very flattering. Some of you guys actually think, some of you think I'm getting paid by the Russians, which is frickin' hilarious. Based on what they pay their spies and stuff, I don't think it would be that great compared to other sources of revenue that I could explore. But anyways, we sell body armor. We got all kinds. We even got shields, man. Like, take a look at this. This is a frickin' shield. Level 3 plus shield. We got t-shirts that have a level 3A plate inside them. We have backpack inserts. We have plate carriers. Whole 9 yards. Check it out, CanadianPreparedness.com. That's the sponsorship for today. It's us, okay? I could come on here every single day and tell you to play Raid Shadow Legends or some other stupid shit, but I'm trying to get you guys the good deals, usually to my own detriment, because quite frankly, the store is just, you know, to be brutally honest, I don't even know how much longer I'm going to do the store because I don't need to do it. I lose money on it, but the reason why I do it is because there are so many bad actors in this space selling people garbage. And that bears repeating every single time I have to say this, because there is a lot of people who are just exploiting people with Very high margin, low quality products. We don't get good margins on this stuff, but we're trying to get people outfitted with the good gear that's actually going to help you to survive. Anyways, enough riffraff. Former CIA analyst Ray McGovern believes that that submarine, that Russian nuclear-powered submarine currently docked in Cuba, that was being tailed now by a U.S. attack submarine as well as a Canadian warship. Why would they be doing that unless there was something to it? Well, he actually suspects, and this is a guy, a seasoned CIA vet, his entire life, okay? Some people still think he's CIA, but I don't know about that. Anyways, he thinks that there's actually nuclear weapons on the submarine and that they wouldn't send it out unless there was, for deterrence sake. So people are downplaying this as, oh, it's just another exercise, don't worry about it. This is the real deal, quite possibly, according to Ray McGovern. Don't take it to the bank. It's his own speculation, but if anybody's going to speculate, it's a guy who spent his life in Central Intelligence. Now, this distribution of F-35s with nuclear weapons, this is a big one. And the way they're presenting this information, as if it's just something you do on an average Tuesday, is flippin' insane. Get a load of this. Strategic dispersion. Been talking about this one for over a year. I've been saying they're spreading out the F-16s, they're spreading out the F-35s, they're spreading out all the means because NATO doesn't have mobile nuclear platforms. So they have to spread them out. Now they're openly talking about how after 40 years, the Norwegians have just decided to, dust off these Cold War era bunkers, park these F-35s that have been upgraded so that they can accept nuclear weapons, F-35As, which they've also been training on roadways to depart from. And they do that because these aren't the vertical takeoff B variant. They're just the normal variant. And they're doing this because in the case of a nuclear war, okay, you don't want to have these things concentrated on airfields. And the fact that they're doing this already before they're even in a war, I mean, come on. Come on, man. I mean, this is DEFCON 2 level stuff at least. They're putting the nuclear deployment systems into nuclear-proof bunkers. All right. Meanwhile, Russia is entering stage 2 of its tactical nuclear drills on the Ukraine border that actually sees them loading those into the launchers. That's where we're at. Strategic dispersion and robust protective measures, listen to the language here, are necessary to maintain operational readiness in hostile environments. For this reason, the Royal Norwegian Air Force used the Mountain Hangar for the first time in 40 years. These shelters can withstand attacks that would devastate more conventional structures, preserving valuable military assets. Now, let's read that again. These shelters can withstand attacks that would devastate more conventional structures. I mean, why don't they just come out and say, we're trying to prevent the planes from nuclear war, right? Instead, they use the term strategy and the reverse of unconventional, which is conventional, to make this seem as a relatively innocuous move. But it isn't. Interestingly, the Royal Norwegian Air Force, who did this for the first time in 40 years, just out of the blue, just because, have also started training in highway operations last year to increase their ability to operate from unimproved runways at dispersed locations. So it's all about spreading it around. And this is all recent, okay? So crazy, crazy stuff is afoot. Again, the Polish Ministry of Foreign Affairs has issued a communique advising all Polish nationals who are still in Russia to leave the country immediately. It suggests that in the case of an open conflict, there will be no possibility to leave Russia. Holy shit. And of course, NATO, in addition to this strategic dispersal concept, and in addition to every single other bombshell piece of information that's been released day after day after day, whether it's the Schengen corridors and the 300,000 U.S. troops today, before I forget, they're getting ready to augment the, what is it called, selective service, so that now it's going to be automatic that you're enrolled. I guess everybody, when you're 18 in the United States, you got to enroll in selective service. Now they're going to be expanding that to include women as well. So this is Starship Troopers. You ever seen Starship Troopers? Pay attention to the co-ed military dorms and the military barracks. That's the future, okay? There's not going to be any difference. Doesn't matter what you are. They're going to put everybody. Everybody's going into the meat grinder. That's the catch, ladies. You're going to the front line just like the rest of us. You don't want to have babies? Well, I think suddenly everybody's going to start having babies all of a sudden. Maybe that's how they're going to kickstart the dwindling populations here in the West. They're going to say, if you don't have babies, you're going to have to go and die like that poor sap over there. I can't believe this shit, man. This is... I'm just constantly amazed at how much I know and how little the average person knows. And again, this is not because I'm more intelligent per se. It's just because I take the time to look at this stuff. And you guys too. You know, we all have this information. And it's like Cassandra complex on steroids day after day, because I'm screaming. I'm trying to let people know what's going on. I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm not talking about weird shit in the sky and frequencies, you know, penetrating into my house and that things don't exist and things like that. I'm not talking about any of that. What I'm talking about is grounded in empirical fact, not religious, not political. Don't do culture war bullshit. I'm giving you the facts, maybe in a slightly way that might seem alarmist to some people. I'm going to tell you once again, when this shit goes down, if and when it goes down, nothing I could have possibly done. I could come on here, jump up and down naked, screaming with a bunch of weird shit coming off of my body. You know, some people would like that probably. But what I'm trying to say is nothing I could do would be extreme enough to try to warn people. Once it happens, that's it. It's lights out, game over. Holy shit, thank God it's Friday. Russia's final ultimatum claims State Duma Speaker Pyotr Tolstoy on Putin's initiative on Ukraine. This is the last peace proposal from us. The next will be a proposal for surrender. I mean, they already put a hit on Zelensky, or they already, what was it, an arrest warrant or something like that? So, I mean, this is such a weird I think the Ukrainians have to have nukes or something. There's got to be some unknown here that both sides know that we don't know. Because NATO has no reverse gear. They are going all in. A 10-year, could you imagine 10 years of fighting on the same escalation trajectory as we are now? That deal that Biden signed with Zelensky for 10 years? Just imagine. I mean, we're talking about no organic thing is going to be alive in Ukraine at that point in time, even if it's just strictly conventional from all the artillery fire. Imagine how contaminated the soils are there. The richest soils in Europe, completely contaminated. And that too is not just my own conjecture. That is a fact that we've talked about months ago. Most people have zero idea how much damage this war is doing, not only fiscally, not only in terms of the impending mushroom clouds on the horizon, but environmentally, it is very damaging for the breadbasket of Europe, or what used to be called that. There is a new drone lurking around the Black Sea. Now, this is important. Some people claim, without any evidence whatsoever, which is why you always got to take everything you hear on social media with a grain of salt. You won't hear any tinfoil hatters saying shit like that. Okay, now this is important because remember I was talking about eventually this is going to get shot down, right? Because now you got the F-16s coming into the party. They got longer range weapon systems. They're going to be more effectively targeting targets inside Crimea. The Russians have recently deployed, according to Ukrainian intelligence, S-500 systems, their most advanced missile defense. Some people say this is a defense against nuclear weapons as well. If the Russians are that serious that they're deploying S-500 in Crimea, and Vladimir Putin is putting out this final last-ditch Hail Mary into nowhere, then you know that escalation is imminent. This was the last chance, right before this Switzerland peace conference. Anytime they say peace, they mean war, okay? Anytime they say peace, you can bet they mean war. Now, this Northrop Grumman NQ-4C Triton aircraft, very expensive aircraft. I don't know how many of them they have. This one is far more advanced than the RQ M4 Global Hawk or whatever it was. This one has a greater range. It can do things in real time. It can survey an area autonomously. It can see everything, and it is going to be used to try to effectively, likely try to take out the S-500 or perhaps even gather intelligence on it if it comes up on the radars. But this is very serious. Now, people are speculating that it's been brought down or brought down due to bad weather. I don't know what the originating source of that information is, but the fact that they've stepped it up and the fact that that may have happened, even if that didn't happen, the fact that they're now stepping this up, I wonder if it has something to do with the fact that one of these was already brought down. That other drone that they were using, remember, it was brought down in 2022, and the Russians actually captured it. I'm not sure if they were able to reverse engineer or get any information off of it, but it was brought down. So perhaps they're getting ready to step it up a notch and they needed to bring in some more advanced technology. The fact that they're using more advanced technology is an escalation unto itself. Okay? Excuse me. All right. So what have we talked about and what have we not talked about? I can't even remember. Scatterbrain today, man. I got to get back out there. I'm building a permacultural, what is it called? Syntropic food forest as we speak. I don't even know if I need to talk about most of this stuff. I mean, Viktor Orban is basically saying, hey, you're not using our country to build one of your massive bases that you're getting ready in Slovakia, Poland, and Romania to send more weapons and likely use as deployment places for the planes, so that they can go fly their sorties and shoot targets inside Russia, because they know that they are going to be in the crosshairs of the counterattack of the Russians. So you're starting to already have these fissures within NATO, be it Slovakia, Hungary, Turkey. Turkey's, I mean, they're very two-faced, at least the leader they have now, so I don't think the Russians can necessarily trust them. But we're definitely seeing that, as Putin is saying, he says that the world is now close to the point of no return. They either do not understand the scale of the threat they are creating or are simply obsessed with their own impunity and exceptionalism, he says. Both can lead to tragedy. Now, the United States, get a load of this, has considered limited nuclear conflict as very likely. The U.S. now considers a limited nuclear conflict with Russia and China quite likely. The SLCM-N is a low-yield nuclear warhead cruise missile launched from surface ships and attack submarines. Now, U.S. military experts argue that the SLCM-Ns will allow the U.S. to engage in a limited nuclear exchange as opposed to a massive retaliation. So it's another way to deploy tactical nuclear weapons. Should the conflict cross the nuclear threshold, they claim, lower yields would signal a clear interest in limiting its intensity. U.S. Navy Reserve Lieutenant Admiral Alan Cummings wrote for the U.S. Naval Institute in April of 2024. Who's been saying that they're going to normalize the use of low-yield tactical nuclear weapons? Yours truly. We've been saying a lot. Everybody says he's alarmist, because I'm always talking 3 or 4 months out, because that's what the data shows me. They're still here in the present, like just being led around. And here we are forecasting what's going to happen on the basis of facts. And the way we do that is because we don't have a bias. Of course, all of the Ukraphiles are going to think that I'm a paid Russian propagandist. Of course, all of the Russophiles are going to say that I am a paid Western propagandist. And there's people who think I'm Illuminati because I occasionally scratch my nose in the wrong way, and that's some kind of esoteric symbolism. What you need to know is that I am an honest seeker of truth, and I have some pretty darn good critical thinking skills. That's the only thing I got going on for me, and I can tell you right now that what I tell you is what I know. through and through. The only thing I don't tell is what I have non-disclosure agreements with certain people and certain companies. There's certain things that I do know of people in the industry that I can't disclose because it would get them in trouble, but it all confirms what I'm talking about right now. People think, oh, it's just a show. He's not a prepper in real life. Really? Have you been with me for the last 10 years on this channel? Do you seriously think that? I mean, whatever, man. You know, you could lead people to information, but you can't make them think. Poland and Sweden are about to get nuclear weapons. It doesn't really matter if they get them anyways, because they have the deployment systems. If you got the deployment systems, you got the nuclear weapons. You're a nuclear target. That's why they're moving them in to the bases. I mean, look at that. I mean, this is where we're at. Look at that. I mean, this is actually, you know, this is kind of like those people who are trapped in their cars in Florida. Not trapped, but they just refuse to leave their cars even though they're sitting in a car full of water. It's like a contrast of the best. This is what we've invested in for decades. This is where all the monies went. And look at up against this crumbling Cold War infrastructure. This is our future. It's a perfect blend of dystopian and Mad Max. You know, sometimes this job can be a rather poetic pursuit. Romania is going to be expanding its air bases near Ukraine. The Romanian government has begun a multi-billion euro expansion and modernization project at one of its air bases near Ukraine, where new military equipment will be stored. Okay. Yeah, stored. So this is what I'm saying. You know, they're going to build out these bases for the F-16s, and then what they're going to do is they're going to fly into Ukraine, and the guy is going to get the wheel to just, they're going to find some Ukrainian roadway somewhere, and the wheel is going to just touch the roadway, and then it's going to go off and fly its sortie into Russia, and then it's going to fly right back to Romania. And then technically, that will be a deployment from Ukraine. The question is Russia going to play that game? The strategic forbearance that they demonstrate may indicate they might. Who knows? Because really think about this. It's difficult, even for me, to understand how Putin is going to come on television and tell his population we had to detonate a nuke. I think the only way they can do this, you got to think propaganda, right? The only way they can do it is if they say that NATO was going to do it first. They're going to have to provide very good reason for it. Now, which is not to say there's not some Russians who aren't for the idea of nuclear weapons. In fact, you know, the Russian people are pretty patriotic right now. And some of them, like these guys right here, who have the blow-up doll of the Sarmat, they got a blow-up version of the nuclear missile. I'm sure they're all paid. They all look like, you know, military dudes. So clearly these are guys who are put up by the Russian government. Nonetheless, they're staging this demonstration to, and I don't know if this is how new this is. In fact, this actually rings a bell. This might even be from last year. Regardless, the sentiment is the same. There is a lot of people in Russia who are okay with using nukes. Probably not the majority, okay? But there's a lot of people. So how does, let's try to visualize. Can we visualize a situation in which Vladimir Putin comes on television and says a nuclear weapon was detonated because such and such a reason? What is his demeanor going to be like? Is it going to be very similar to when he announced that the war was going to start? You know, in a way I can't see it, but I can also see it because anything is possible right now. Anything. We could see such abrupt, you know, events unfold that you never think were going to happen, but they happen. But I think how it's going to happen is it's going to, we know what the end result is going to be. It is going to be the use of nuclear weapons. You think all this nuclear rhetoric is just nothing. It's something. How we get there is probably going to be in a manner which very few people anticipate. There's going to be some series of events that unfold. You know, like, I mean, I never foresaw that Russia was going to arm or threaten, as Dmitry Medvedev today has now threatened to arm Iran with nuclear weapons. So that brings out a whole new aspect of the escalation ladder, because what you thought was once just a regional conflict, you start to quickly find that all of these countries, North Korea, China, Russia, Iran, they're all working together. So Russia says, okay, we see what you're trying to do. You're trying to provoke us into using nuclear weapons, and that's just a fact, guys. I mean, if you don't believe that, then, and you think I'm a Putin shill for saying that, so be it. You're probably not going to survive SHTF. To be brutally honest, if that's the level of critical thinking, if that's where you're at, you ain't surviving shit. So just keep watching the channel and try to educate yourself. Now, if that is the case, I totally lost my train of thought bitching at people. I'm sorry about that, guys. I'm not sorry. You see, this is the problem with us Canadians. We're too damn sorry. I need to be more unapologetic, don't I? Anyways, I think you get the gist of what I'm trying to say here, my friends. Shit hit the fan a-cometh, and we're all going down with the sinking ship. But you can be prepared. The Russians are doing their second phase, loading the tactical nukes into position. I feel as though what I was just about to say was going to be very important. And I'm going to kick myself, because when the video is concluded, I'm going to be like, oh yeah, that's what I was supposed to say. Maybe you guys can carry on the conversation in the comment section below. The UK is threatening Russia with asymmetrical warfare. David Cameron really wants to get nuked. He says, we will show Putin that we are completely behind Ukraine. We will chase the money and the oil. We will stop the gas. We will stop the ships. We will do everything to stop the Russian war machine and show Putin the folly of his actions. Dems be fighting words, man. I mean, they're basically saying, we did Nord Stream, right? I mean, that's what he's saying. We're going to stop the gas. We're going to stop the ships. We're going to do everything to stop the Russian war machine. But they underestimate the strategic acumen of Vladimir Putin. Because again, going back to the fact that nobody could have foreseen that they were going to arm these other countries against us. Now that's something we have to factor in. Even the Houthis. You got to ask yourself, the Houthis are shooting ships every single day. You don't even hear about it anymore. I mean, that U.S., what was it? One of the aircraft carriers got its bags and was sent packing by the Houthis. Now they claim it wasn't hit, and all of their shills came out and said, you know, tried to debunk it right away. But you got to ask yourself, how is it that 30 million guys in sandals, armed with a few, you know, somewhat modern weapons, but not entirely modern, that seem to get shot down 95, 99% of the time, are somehow still able to do this month after month? Well, it's because maybe we miscalculated. I mean, when you really look at the situation with Joe Biden and Giorgia Meloni basically having to be his nurse while he wanders off into the abyss every other minute, it seems, you really think that we hope there's somebody in charge. I mean, you hope that there's a deep state at that point. You hope that guy doesn't have the nuclear codes, right? I mean, I don't hope either of them have the nuclear codes, because quite frankly, when you got, you know, Trump being interviewed by Logan Paul talking about aliens, I mean, this is the silly world we are living in. I don't care what you guys say. All politicians are bought and paid for. At the end of the day, none of them are going to change a damn thing. That's why you, as a prepper, as a survivalist, you got to take matters into your own hands. And when I say that, what I mean is take care of you and yourself. Become more self-reliant. Here's what Trump wants to do. Oh yeah, Trump's going to eliminate income tax. Oh yeah, you know, 35 trillion in debt. Let's just eliminate the primary source of the only real source of government income tax. 4.4 trillion a year. We got to ask yourself, where's that going to come from? Oh, don't worry, we're going to replace it with tariffs. Really? We're just going to, you know, charge all those countries that send us cheap shit because they have slave labor. And yeah, we're just going to end up paying 3 times as much for that cheap shit that we've all been conditioned to pay next to nothing for. For each action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and these people are going to lie to you and tell you whatever you need to know. I guarantee you 100%, Trump is going to go to war with Iran. There is no doubt about it. In fact, I think it's going to happen before that. Trump is a die-hard supporter of Israel. He will take us to war with Iran, period, point blank. There is no question about it. So if you don't think that bone is connected to the Russia bone, is connected to the China bone and the North Korea bone, my friends, and if you're one of these people who think Trump is going to go and fraternize with Kim Jong-un and everything is going to be A-OK, just remember that after he did that, the year after he did that, North Korea did more missile tests than ever before in their history. Okay? They're all liars. I mean, how many times over and over again does it have to happen? Are people that stupid? But hey, is it the lesser of two evils? Maybe. Is it better than having a guy who doesn't know where he is half the time? Am I willing to roll the dice on something? At this point, it doesn't matter. I mean, put anybody up there. It's just entertainment. How do Americans pay for things? Well, the cashless society. You know, quickly, I don't see gold or silver on here. I see other. See how cash used to be 31% back in 2016 already. In just 5 years, down to 18%. Admittedly, I don't use cash much at all. It's freaking inconvenient when you can just tap, 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 tap. But of course, that it gives you a false sense of understanding your money, too, a lot of people say. What is this chart here? Canadian bankruptcies. Oh, look at that. You know, just massive amounts of bankruptcies everywhere. All small business that were choked out by the bullshit of the last 3 years. What a surprise. Oh, look. The border between Lebanon and Israel are burning down. And how are they burning down, you ask? Well, which battery life we got left? Ratting away. Look at this. Catapults. Yes, you heard right. You know, this is in some ways, I realize they're actually doing this in both directions, the Lebanese and the, so this isn't just an Israeli flex. They're all doing this, okay? And this is kind of symbolic because there's that Einstein quote, World War III, we don't know what it will be fought with, but I can tell you that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones and catapults. That's what that's all about. They're trying to, and you know, this is all violation of the Geneva Convention. Not like that matters anymore, because anytime our side does something, there is no Geneva Convention. There is no international law anymore. I mean, what's happening, the shit that's happening in Ukraine, the shit that's happening in the Gaza Strip, there is no international law. There probably never really was. I mean, let's face it, there never really was. There is just a bunch of Western angels, nice, clean, and perfect, who don't wipe their own ass. You know, they're guarded by angelic forces. They can do no wrong, and there's all the other evil people. This is how we've been conditioned by movies like 300. You know, you really got to pay attention to the unconscious brainwashing that goes into that. That's what they're trying to say. Which is not to say that everywhere has its share of assholes. Don't get me wrong. I'm going off today, aren't I? It's Friday, man. I don't know if you guys notice, is there a pattern to my presentations? Do I get more animated later in the week for some reason? I don't know, because I don't watch this stuff. I just say it, right? I just study it and then I say it. But this is the violation of the Geneva Convention is the use of wildfire. It's a very effective form of asymmetrical warfare when you think about it. And we're seeing it used the most easily since the Vietnam War, although I would not doubt that arson, you could even see a lot of these fires, which of course do require the conditions for wildfires to burn. They could be, you know, different agents. I mean, you're getting a lot of Russians being sent home right now by the FBI. They're being given their walking papers. And of course, to the dismay of the Russian ambassador in the United States, there could be a lot of that going on. We live in a glass house. It would be very easy to mess with our critical infrastructure if you had a dedicated group that was sponsored by a nation state, and that's just kinetic. That's not talking about cyber. Okay, so we talked about the Polish thing. A bit more Polish news. I got the energy to get through this. Let's do this. This is a message from my Polish intel source. Polish soldiers and border guards serving on the Belarusian border will undergo training in typical police techniques such as riot control and dealing with aggressive civilians, as well as being equipped with riot shields and helmets with ballistic visors. So I don't know if that is so they can deal with the immigrants. Is that to keep people in? Is that to protect against the influx of refugees? What is that all about? The Polish Minister of Homeland Security has also introduced a buffer zone along the most critical parts of the Belarusian border. This is in addition to the Eastern Shield defensive line. And NATO has made it mandatory that all countries within NATO supply weapons to Ukraine. This is because they're trying to squeeze out those naysayers, right? The Orbans and the Ficos. I question, though, if that's not just theater to create a little bit of discourse. Yeah, we all know trading in dollars stopped on the MOEX. The Saudi Arabia stopping trade in US dollars thing, apparently it's not quite as significant as some people think. I don't know all the details of it, but I was doing a little bit of digging, and it's significant. It's a move towards a multipolar world where you have a rival BRICS currency or basket of currencies or something gold-backed. There's no doubt about that. But it is not, it doesn't necessarily herald the immediate collapse of the US dollar either, okay? And the US petrodollar, I should say. And that's reflected in the fact that oil prices haven't changed much. The US dollar, in fact, has strengthened just a little bit. And usually that happens in the run-up to global uncertainty because people are looking for economic safe havens. Talked about the Russian stationing S-500 in Crimea. Ukraine is expecting imminent nationwide blackouts, and it's due to air conditioning. So if you see above average temperatures, because 80% of their power grid has been knocked out, they're worried about winter, but now they got to worry about summer because, of course, air conditioners are a big drag on the grid. Talked about the Russian citizens being deported. According to Western intel sources, Iran will attack Israel directly in the case of war between Hezbollah, which most intelligence analysts have said it's a done deal. I mean, to say that this is not a war already, I mean, it has incrementally been ramping up, but when you have exchanges that we're seeing right now, catapults, hundreds of rockets, Assad, that's a war. In fact, even Wikipedia is smart enough to call it a war already, or they're calling it a conflict. It's a war. They just haven't went all in with a land-based incursion force yet. But they will. They absolutely will. It's guaranteed. China is responding to the U.S. threat. Remember when the admiral, what was his name, Admiral Papero, said that we will sink they said that I want to turn the Taiwan Strait into an unmanned hellscape using a number of classified capabilities. Of course, they're referring to drones, probably naval drones. He told the Times, the Global Times, so that I can make their lives utterly miserable for a month, which buys me the time for the rest of everything, as he claims. Now, that's an incredibly provocative statement for a country that claims to respect the one China policy, isn't it? Methinks so. However, China countered, and any Chinese spokesperson is reflective in some way, shape, or form of what the government actually thinks. Just like Medvedev is to Putin, these other pundits and retired officers and military personnel are telling you the truth. A naval expert and retired PLA, People's Liberation Army naval officer Wang Yongfei told the Global Times that the U.S. strategy is wishful thinking. He said that China can use its hypersonic anti-ship missiles to keep U.S. carriers out of the region. Basically saying, we're going to sink your nuclear-powered, likely carrying nuclear weapons aircraft carriers and put them at the bottom of the ocean, which will be a radiological incident unto itself, and we can jam the signals needed to control unmanned weapons. That's what's going on, folks. Get your body armor. Level 4, we can't do level 4, and we're limited in terms of the provinces that we can ship to. We can do level 3 plus, which is basically most of what you're going to need unless you're in a full-on combat zone. We have level 3A. I think that's as low as we go. We have backpack inserts. We have the shields. Okay, I'm gonna probably end up doing a test on this because it's pretty cool. I want to see exactly how capable it is. It's got an 8-year warranty on it. Check it out, Canadian Preparedness. Take 10% off your order. Support local Canadian business. People think, oh, you're just trying to make money off people. No, if I was trying to make money off people, if you guys really understood what's going on, I would not have a store. I would strictly just do this all the time. I wouldn't have a communist cameraman. I wouldn't have a graphics artist to make you guys great videos. I wouldn't have 2 other camera people and editors that work with the team. I wouldn't have all these people working for me. I could just do this every single day and make a lot more money just through affiliate marketing. I have the store because I want people to get connected with the products that we bring on the channel. The people that we bring on are top-notch, quality people with integrity. People just think, oh, he's promoting a product. He's just trying to sell me shit. Well, everybody's trying to sell you shit. We live in a capitalist society. Do you protest outside of Walmart because there's 10,000 products inside all trying to get in front of your face? No. We're trying to bring you stuff that is going to help you survive. I'm sorry, I'm not yelling at 90% of you guys. Just, it's been a long week, man. And honestly, this homestead build out, I keep thinking, next year is not going to be as busy. But I am grinding like a mofo. And I'm trying to keep getting people connected with the gear that you need, the good quality gear. It comes at a premium. You don't need it. I'm not saying you need it, but I'm not here promoting Raid Shadow Legends and other of the 10,000 other sponsors that are trying to throw me money because it feels icky. I'd rather promote shit I'm going to use myself. You got it? All right. I got to go. Oh, don't forget. Like I said, I talked about all the plates. We got bulletproof t-shirts, okay? So go check it out. It's all on the website there. But if you don't have a trauma pack, doesn't matter what the brand is, if you don't have something to manage the bleeding, tourniquets, Israeli bandages, quick clot, you do not have a survival medical kit. Go and get your Adventure Medical Kits Trauma Pack at CanadianPreparedness.com, and we have so many different types. We got about 5,000 frickin' products here. Maybe the government is just going to buy everything when the time comes. And on that note, you should know that the DJI drones, they're going to be banned very quickly. If you want a force multiplier like no other is a drone. These things are around $250 now for the, what are they? Like the former version, not the most up-to-date version. You can get the Mavic, what is it? The Mavic Air? The one that's the Mini, Mavic Mini 3. I'm pretty sure you can get it for like $250 now. Not the most modern one with the actual screen. Get one of these drones, put it in your preps. A drone is such an incredible force multiplier. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, you get yourself a thermal drone, and I mean, that thing, holy smokes. Those are game changers, but I'm going to tell you something. Right now, you can't get them because the bottleneck is the thermal, what do you call it? The thermal imager. The thermal imagers are in short supply. The manufacturer of one of the most popular drones, I'm not going to drop the name or anything because I don't want people out there scrambling for them or anything, but they tell us that basically they have not seen it this busy for thermal drones since the start of the Ukraine war. So that's where it's at. These thermal imagers, every country is stockpiling them because they're putting them on drones, and I tell you, man, I'm not going to say I got one, but I got one. And they are frickin' incredible. I'm talking you can see for miles in all directions anything that is warm, that has warm blood flowing through its veins. You can see it from miles away. This is the biggest prepping game changer. I mean, I'm not saying you need it, and I'm not saying it's legal to hunt with it. I'm not even saying, I mean, you need a license typically to fly any drone that has that on it because, of course, usually the drone is over 250 grams. And I'm just saying, man, like these are the things that you get into when you do this shit for a while. You start, upgrading. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you're at the level where you're starting, all you can do, build out your bug out bag. You start. But the most important thing, more than all, doesn't cost you a damn thing. That is taking care of your health. Taking care of your health and taking care of your mind is free. Maybe we should start selling that. Start selling, nobody would buy that. Anytime we've tried to do an exercise video, it flops completely because people just want to buy shit. People just want turnkey solutions, and I don't blame them. It's busy, but man, you got to prioritize, folks. It's not hard. It's not hard to lose weight. It isn't. You don't need this Ozempic shit. You don't need to go on testosterone. You just need to train insane. That's all you got to do. I mean, don't you got that will to live, that will to get better, that will to grind? I mean, you can't teach people that. But I know you guys got it because you're preppers. You're survivalists. There's something about you. You want to be tested, right? So test yourself starting right now. Whenever I start to go on a I like calling it a diet because that's not the right term, but whenever I start calorie reduction, it's always that first day that is the hardest. When you make that decision and you go to bed just a little bit hungrier, that is the hardest day. Everything thereafter, you start to get this little bit of dopamine. The dopamine that you miss from taking the bite of the cookie, you get that from the excitement in knowing that you were successful in not shoving that shit in your face. Anyways, I don't even know what we're talking about. Nuclear war, and now I'm talking about physical fitness and dieting advice. I'm sorry, folks. Let's go and let's get some work done this weekend. We got a lot of work to do because it's hitting the fan. It's here. Nuclear escalation imminent.